The neuroscience of personal development says that you have already failed today. Not metaphorically, literally. Your brain has already rejected the version of you that you're trying to become. It happened this morning. It happened this afternoon. It happened yesterday evening. It's probably even happening right now while you're listening to me. Personal development, my friends, is not about emotion. It's about biology. It's about what actually happens in your brain when you try to change your life. Today, we're going to be breaking down the neuroscience behind self-improvement, giving you the ultimate science-backed guide to unlocking your mind.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my fellow success seekers? Welcome back to another episode of Your Success DNA, the podcast for my aspiring entrepreneurs, my 9-to-5 escapees. And you know what? It's really for anyone who wants to level up their game in any part of their life, because each episode delivers mindset shifts, habit upgrades, all mixed with a little dose of rebellion so that you can break free from convention to not just build a relationship or a business, but ultimately a life aligned with your version of success. And if you know someone who dreams of ditching the grind and wants to level themselves up and keeps making time for some personal development and some self-help there, go ahead and forward this episode to them, would you? Okay, so let's go ahead and get stuck right in, because here's what no one is telling you about rewiring your brain. The person you want to be is not waiting for you at some far-off distant finish line. That person, I'm afraid to tell you, doesn't exist. But the neural pathways that could create them, yeah, they're being carved out in your head right this very minute, in this very moment. But not through motivation, not through discipline, through something far more precise and at the same time, far more fragile. Most people think personal development is a willpower problem, that you have to wake up earlier, that you have to read more, that you want to build a business, so you white knuckle it out. You download an app, you set the alarm for 5 a.m., and for 17 days, or maybe a few more, a few less, it works. Then your brain, that same 3 pounds of tissue that's kept our species alive for 200,000 years, decides to make a decision. It decides that the old you is much safer, and it begins to fight back. Neuroscientist Wendy Suzuki spent years studying why this happens. Her research at NYU focuses specifically on the hippocampus. That's the brain's memory and learning center. And what she found, I think, is a little unsettling. Your brain is not lazy. It's just conservative. I'm sorry. Stick with me here. It's running on a prediction machine that has been trained by every single day that you have lived to this point, even up to a few minutes ago. When you try to change, you're not just fighting those bad habits. You are fighting your own neurology. You're asking your brain to accept more risk, more energy expenditure, and more uncertainty, all for a payoff that won't come for months, maybe even years. Your primitive brain sees that trade and says, nope, not going to do it. And here's where I think it gets a little bit interesting. There's a window, a specific moment when your brain is almost plastic, right? When the old pathways are weak enough to rewire and the new ones are strong enough to start to take hold. And you've probably been missing that moment your entire life. The process starts with something called pattern recognition. Your brain is constantly running prediction models. It sees a trigger, could be a time of day, a location, an emotion, a smell, and it automatically pulls up that default response. The default you. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. Some of you are going, yeah, you're right, Tracy. I know. I had a family member way back when whose father passed away, and there was this amazing array of lilies at his funeral. To this day, he cannot stand the smell of lilies. That was his default you. You sit down at your desk and your brain might say something like distracted scrolling. You walk into a meeting and your brain could say something like people pleaser energy. You lie in bed and your brain says 5 more minutes. Those aren't choices. They're predictions running on autopilot. And the engine running that autopilot, that is your basal ganglia. Yeah, that's that cluster of structures deep in your brain that encodes habitual behavior into near automatic loops. The neural pathways for these behaviors are thick, and they're well insulated by myelin. Yeah, a fatty sheath that wraps around frequently fired neurons, making them faster and making them more efficient. They fire fast because they have fired 1,000 times downrange that specific target. Now, most development coaches will tell you to just replace the behavior, right? Old habit out, new habit in. We've all heard it. Go ahead and raise your hand and nod. Yes, I totally get you. But they're skipping a crucial step. Before you can wire in a new pattern, you have to destabilize the old one. And you do that by making automatic conscious, by catching yourself in the middle of a prediction, catching yourself mid-prediction. Here's the mechanism I'm talking about. every time you notice yourself about to run that default pattern right before you reach for the phone or right before you self-sabotage or right before you choose safety over growth, that moment of awareness is a micro disruption. Your brain has been forced out of autopilot mode. Now it has a choice. The choice point, that's where your rewiring actually begins. Not the struggle to change, not in the decisions you made yesterday, in the stillness of noticing. This is exactly why mindfulness meditation works as a cognitive tool, not because it's relaxing, but because it trains the brain to catch itself mid-prediction. Regular meditation practices literally thicken the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for deliberate decision-making, giving you more leverage against the basal ganglia's automatic pull into the habit, right? The moment of deliberate observation is not laziness, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care who tells you this. It's actually neuroscience. And this is where most people are going to get it wrong. They think rewiring means forcing yourself to do the opposite thing. Run when you want to rest. Speak up when you want to hide. But that's still autopilot. It's just flipping the car into reverse. Real rewiring requires a pause, a moment of deliberate observation. Again, that is not laziness, that's neuroscience. Psychiatrist Norman Doidge documented cases where stroke patients completely rewired their brains, regaining speech, regaining movement, regaining sensation by practicing new neural pathways with obsessive attention and tiny little repetitions. Not in weeks, not in months, over years. But here's what's remarkable about this. The rewiring only stuck when there was a genuine uncertainty in their nervous system, when the old pathway was broken and the new one hadn't quite solidified yet. You could actually see on the brain imaging where the function migrated. The old area went dark, and the new area began to light up. You could say you're in that state right now, most of you. You feel it. The old path, the career that doesn't fit, the relationship patterns that tend to repeat, the identity that used to work for you. That path is crumbling. It's unstable, right? It's a rocky road, and you're almost going to roll your ankle at times as you step forward. And your nervous system is in genuine uncertainty. Maybe even you're terrified. But that terror is also opportunity. Your brain is plastic right now in ways that it has not been in years. You're not stuck, you're between. And here's where the trap kind of gets set. In that between space, most people do one of two things. They either panic and sprint back to the old familiar path, right? The familiar trodden path that we've all traveled. I get it. I know it. I know where I'm going. I can see my footsteps. It's all good. Or they thrash around crazy like a fish out of water, trying the 17th new thing, and they try them all at once, never giving any single rewiring enough repetition to actually take hold. Both approaches fail because they misunderstand the actual mechanism. Nobel laureate Eric Kandel spent decades uncovering how the brain actually codes new skills and memories at a molecular level. Now, I'm not going to give you all the molecular details, but let me share this with you. What he found is that every time you repeat a new behavior with focused attention, a protein called CREB gets activated inside your neurons. The CREB is the messenger that actually triggers the growth of new synaptic connections. And it's the foundation of what neuroscientists call long-term potentiation, or LTP. That is the process by which repeated activation of a neural pathway literally strengthens over time. But, and this is crucial, CREB only activates when there's a spontaneous challenge and attention. Mindless repetition, that's not going to work. Forced repetition, nope, that's not going to work either. The brain has to be engaged in that micro decision of whether or not to continue. Dopamine? Well, dopamine also plays a crucial role here too. It's not just the reward chemical, it's the brain's learning signal. Every time you make a choice that deviates from the default pattern and it doesn't kill you, dopamine reinforces that new pathway. It tells your nervous system this was worth the energy you spent on doing it. So do it again. That's not motivation. That's synaptic plasticity in real time. Might explain why we keep doing that doom scrolling, right? Okay, yeah, go ahead and nod. I get it. Okay, we all been there. This is why meditation works for some people and not others. Why one person's morning routine transforms their life, and for another person, it just becomes another form of anxiety. The magic ingredient is not in the routine itself. Please stop asking everybody about their morning routine. It's whether your brain is genuinely uncertain about it.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
whether you're choosing it in real time or whether it's become yet another autopilot program. Here, let me give you a practical application of this principle. The Pomodoro technique, which we talked about a couple of episodes back. If I remember, I'll go ahead and drop a link to that down in the show notes so you can just click over and listen to it when you're done here. The Pomodoro technique, working in focused 25-minute intervals separated by short breaks. It's not a productivity hack. It's a deliberate attention training protocol. Each interval forces your prefrontal cortex to re-engage with the task rather than letting your basal ganglia drift off into distraction autopilot. Every session is a micro repetition of focused choice. Stack enough of them together and you're not just getting work done, you're literally reconstructing how your brain allocates attention. Maybe you want to rewire for success, and maybe you want to become a version of yourself that's 3 years ahead of where you are right now. But most people are trying to grow in the same direction their nervous system is already wired. Same industry, same social circle, same feedback loops, same identity. That, my friend, is not rewiring. That's just upgrading. And upgrades have limits. Real rewiring means introducing information that contradicts your current model of who you are, of yourself. It means getting feedback from contexts where your old identity does not work. It means repeatedly exposing yourself to situations where your old predictions that your mind is creating fail. And you don't do this to shame yourself. You do this to genuinely confuse your prediction machine. And in that confusion, the plasticity happens. And here's the part I think for some of you, it's going to be hard to hear. But you know me, I'm not pulling any punches around here, right? This is that dose of rebellion. Most people will not do this. There it is, plain and simple. They just won't. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. It's not motivational. It requires vulnerability and it requires being wrong. And a lot of people just can't handle being wrong. It requires being incompetent in public. We can all be incompetent in private. Being incompetent in public, that's a different level of uncomfortable. And your nervous system, the one that's trying to keep you safe, your nervous system is going to wage war against all that. You'll feel unmotivated. You'll feel like you're regressing. And you'll feel like this approach is not working. It is working, but you can't see it because the rewiring happens in the invisible space between stimulus and response. And in the moment you notice the automatic thought and didn't act, in the conversation where you say something you've never said before, and your nervous system did not collapse. In that small failure where you realized you survived. And here's a paradox I think that's going to break most of you listeners and most of your friends out there. The moment you stop measuring progress, the moment you stop waiting for reward, that you stop checking to see if you're successful yet, or you stop comparing yourself to people you expected to be by now, that, my friends, is when the rewiring accelerates. Because you stopped asking your nervous system to predict whether it's worth your time and energy. And you just started doing it over and over and over again until one day it's not a choice anymore. It's not a prediction. It's who you are. But you knew this was coming, right? There's a cost to this because the person you become isn't always the person you thought you wanted to be. Sometimes rewiring yourself for success in your career means becoming someone your friends don't recognize anymore. Someone they don't want to hang out with, maybe. Sometimes it means making choices that look selfish from the outside. Sometimes it means being willing to disappoint people who were invested in the old you. Sometimes it means building something alone because everyone you know is still living in the version of the world that you're leaving behind or that you left behind. You know this already. Some of you are going, yeah, it's true. Somewhere in your body, you know that becoming successful, he says with air quotes, whatever that means to you, requires becoming someone slightly different than you are right now, maybe even radically different. And you're terrified, not just of failure, but of success. Because success rewires you. It changes your nervous system. It introduces you to new problems, new fears, new versions of yourself that contradict who you used to be, or maybe who you are right now. Look, the brain science is clear. Rewiring is possible. Neuroplasticity is real. But it's not a journey toward yourself. It's a journey away from your current self. And the cost of getting there is the person you were or you are right now. The gap between who you are and who you want to become, that's not distance. That's death. And it's the death of who you were. Look, if this episode is hitting you somewhere real, and if you're feeling that gap between who you are and who you're supposed to become, I want to give you more. Every single week, I send out the Unleash Your Success DNA newsletter, and it's built for exactly the person you are right now and helping you become who you want to be. Aspiring entrepreneurs, 9-to-5 escapees, whatever it is you want to become. People who are done with the default life and ready to rewire from the inside. Each issue delivers more mindset shifts and habit upgrades and doses of rebellion, all designed to help you break free from convention so that you can build a life aligned with your version of success. So you don't need more motivation. No, you need a map. And that's what this newsletter is designed to be. Head on over to yoursuccessdna.com and subscribe right now. It's free, it's sharp, and it might be the most important thing you do today. Not because I said so, but because the version of who you want to be in 3 years, that person is going to start somewhere. Let this be your somewhere. Yoursuccessdna.com. Go get it now. Okay. Now, let's zoom out for a second, shall we? Because what we've been talking about today isn't just neuroscience. It's not just a productivity framework or some woo-woo self-help concept. What we've been talking about is a fundamental architecture of your human transformation, of human transformation in general. But here's the bigger picture. Every civilization, every movement, every revolution in history has all been built on one thing. People who were willing to become someone their environment did not recognize. The Wright brothers, they weren't inventors. They were people whose nervous systems had been wired to believe flight was possible when the entire world's prediction machine said, nope, it's not possible. Every founder who built something from nothing, every person who walked away from a comfortable lie to chase an uncomfortable truth, they weren't more motivated than you. They weren't more talented than you. They weren't more anything than you. They were just further along in their rewiring process. So here's what this means for you right now in this moment of your life. That restlessness you feel, that's not a character flaw. That, my friend, is neuroplasticity knocking at the door in your head. It's your brain. It's signaling that the old model of you no longer fits the life you've been called towards. Whoever's calling it to you, Allah, Buddha, God, whoever you believe in, the discomfort you feel when you think about making that leap could be starting a business or leaving a job or starting a new relationship. Ultimately, it's all about betting on yourself. That is not fear of failure. That's the friction between the two neural identities competing inside the same nervous system. That's the old you and the emerging you, fighting for control of the steering wheel. Look, my friends, you're not broken, you're between. And between is exactly where transformation lives. The paradigm shift here is this. Stop treating personal development like a self-improvement project. It's not about adding skills to the person you already are. It's about becoming someone new enough that the old problems, they just don't apply anymore. That's not a motivational line. That's a literal mechanism of neurological change. The entrepreneurs, the founders, the freedom builders who actually make it, they don't succeed because they found the right strategy. They succeed because they became the kind of person for whom that strategy was inevitable. The rewiring came first. The results followed after. That's the game. And now you know how it's actually played. So, all that said, here's your whiskered wisdom for today. The brain doesn't change through intention. It changes through interruption. You can read every single book that's ever been published on neuroplasticity. You can journal about the person you want to become. You can vision board your future self onto every wall of your home. And none of it will rewire a single neuron in your head until you interrupt the automatic pattern in real time. Here's your one action for today. Not tomorrow, not after you finish your coffee, right after this episode ends. I want you to identify one automatic behavior, one default pattern that you run on autopilot that belongs to the old version of you. Maybe it's reaching for your phone the moment you start feeling bored. Maybe it's shrinking back in a conversation when you actually have something worth saying. Maybe it's saying yes to things that drain you because saying no just feels too damn dangerous. Pick one, just one, and write down. Literally, go ahead, grab your phone, open up your notes app, grab your journal, grab your pen, and write. My pattern is blank, whatever you fill in the blank. The next time I feel the trigger, I will pause for 5 seconds before I respond. That's it. 5 seconds. That, my friends, is your micro-disruption. That is your pivot point, your choice point, as it were. That is where the rewiring begins. You don't need a new morning routine. You don't need a new productivity system. You don't need some $1,900 course. You need one moment of conscious interruption, repeated enough times that your brain starts to build a new prediction model. And that moment starts the second this episode ends. The gap between who you are and who you're becoming, it closes 1 5-second pause at a time. Okay, so here's what we covered today. Your brain isn't your enemy. It's just conservative. It's running predictions based on the person you used to be. And the only way to change those predictions is to interrupt them consciously, repeatedly, with focused attention and genuine uncertainty. Neuroplasticity is real. The window is open. And you, the person listening to me right this very second, the one who's been sitting in that restless feeling, the quiet knowing that there's more for you, you're exactly in the right place at the right time for this rewiring to happen. Now you know about it. So don't sprint back to the familiar. Don't thrash around like a fish out of water trying to do everything at once. Pick your one pattern, make your one interruption, and trust the process that science has already proven works. The person you're becoming doesn't need your belief yet. They just need your 5 seconds of interruption. Look, if this episode moved you just a little bit, go ahead and share it. Send it to a person in your life who's been talking about change but hasn't been able to do it yet. They might need to hear this. And honestly, so did you. And with that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thanks for listening to Your Success DNA podcast. Whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, we have the tools and inspiration that you need to take your life to the next level. So stay tuned for more game-changing advice in our upcoming episodes. And hey, before you go, a quick reminder to check out our past episodes of Your Success DNA for more inspiring stories and practical advice. And if you've loved what you heard, leave us a review and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Let's all level up our lives together, shall we? Remember, your success is in your DNA.